Hello, I'm Spencer Chopp. Today I'm going to talk about Bay Area artist Richard Diebenkorn and his significance as an artist, as well as the significance of California art. Richard Diebenkorn was born in Portland, Oregon in 1922, and his family relocated to San Francisco when he was just 2 years old. Diebenkorn entered college at Stanford University in 1940, where he concentrated his studies in studio art and art history. At Stanford, he was exposed to the paintings of European modernists like Cezanne, Picasso, and Matisse, exposure that would prove inspirational in Diebenkorn's later work. In 1943, World War II interrupted Diebenkorn's studies, and he joined the U.S. Marine Corps, serving until 1945. While in the service, Diebenkorn was stationed in Hawaii and in Quantico, Virginia. His Virginia location put him in close proximity to many great art museums on the East Coast, including the Museum of Modern Art in New York, the Gallatin Collection at the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and the Phillips Collection in Washington, D.C. These museums further exposed Diebenkorn to modernist works. This painting, The Green Line, portrait of Madame Matisse, in a 1905 oil on canvas by Henri Matisse, is an example of the kind of work that Diebenkorn was inspired by. After the war, Diebenkorn returned home to San Francisco in 1946. Diebenkorn took advantage of the GI Bill and returned to college, studying at the California School of Fine Art in San Francisco. He was awarded a grant which allowed him to move to and study in Woodstock, New York, an epicenter of abstract art. Diebenkorn returned to the Bay Area in 1947 to teach at the California School of Fine Arts and to complete his BA degree at Stanford, which he did in 1949. The artwork he produced during this period is referred to as his Sausalito period. An example of this is Untitled Sausalito No. 3, an oil on canvas painting done in 1948. Diebenkorn moved to New Mexico in 1950 to enroll at the University of New Mexico for a master's degree. It was during his study that Diebenkorn's painting style began to develop maturity. He began to find recognition as a legitimate artist in American abstract art. His work from this period is known as his Albuquerque period. The image shown, Untitled 1951, Oil on Canvas, is an example of this period. During his time in Albuquerque, Diebenkorn traveled to San Francisco for an art show at the San Francisco Museum of Art. While traveling to the show in a low-flying airplane, Diebenkorn was inspired and interested in the perspectives of the landscape that he was seeing from the airplane. The experience was transformative to Diebenkorn as an artist, and the unusual, flattening, aerial landscape perspective would become prevalent in almost all of his future works from that point on. You can see this type of perspective in Cityscape 1 from 1963, an oil on canvas painting. The art of Richard Diebenkorn is considered part of the Bay Area figurative movement style. Diebenkorn and contemporary San Francisco artists such as David Park, Elmer Bischoff, Wayne Thiebaud, and James Weeks form the first generation of this style. This is an oil on canvas by David Park from 1954 called Boston Street Scene. The Bay Area figurative movement rejected the total abstraction of the abstract expressionist style. Instead, it meshed realism and abstraction. Flattening perspectives using very little detail and bold, flat areas of color accomplished this mix of styles. Another aspect is that Bay Area figurative movement artists depicted realistic human scenes as lifeless, as a still life setup. This Bay Area figurative movement, the Bay Area figurative movement was significant in that it marked the end of the abstract expressionist dominance in American art and brought back some elements of humanism and realism to modern art. The Bay Area figurative movement also had an impact on the way perspective was treated by abstract artists. This image is an oil on canvas called Girl Reclining from 1960 by Elmer Bischoff. Richard Diebenkorn's significance and contribution to the Bay Area figurative movement is profound. The culmination of his expressionist influence and his own epiphany regarding the use of perspective and use of color make Diebenkorn's work some of the most important in the movement. As a teacher, especially in the Bay Area, Diebenkorn influenced a generation of perspective artists. Also, while influenced by abstract expressionism, Diebenkorn's work in turn ended up influencing abstract expressionism. The work Berkeley No. 57, 1955, is an example of Diebenkorn's early work and interest in abstract expressionism. The painting is possibly a landscape, but it is too abstract to be certain. The brushstrokes are wild and expressive in an abstract expressionism way. Diebenkorn's signature, bold, and natural color palette is prevalent in this work, as is his influence clear. Coffee from 1959 shows the progression of Diebenkorn's work to a more figurative nature, and the beginning of the Bay Area figurative movement. There is clearly a figure for the subject of the painting, but the figure is treated in a flat and unlifelike way, somewhat like a still life expressionist painting, but with a living subject. Elements of abstract expressionism are still prevalent in this painting, most notably in the brush strokes. However, the painting is not completely abstract because the subject matter is obvious. Cityscape 1 from 1963 is a great example of the Bay Area figurative movement style, and of Diebenkorn's experiments with aerial perspective. The painting is not really abstract in that we can tell this is a landscape subject, but the perspective is awkward and flattened, as are the details of the image. The image is made of large, flat areas of bold color that from afar appear abstract. The brush strokes are not as wild and expressive as they are in abstract expressionism. Ocean Park No. 122 from 1980 is an example of Diebenkorn's evolution and later work. Ocean Park's series was done while Diebenkorn was teaching at UCLA and living in Santa Monica. This series reflects his experience of the Ocean Park beach near his studio. Diebenkorn's flattening of perspective seems to come full circle and almost fully abstracted in this series. The absence of wild and expressive brush strokes is still prevalent, and Diebenkorn retains the large flat areas of color, yet there is nothing realistic or figurative about this period of his work. Although there are many styles that are characteristic of California art, there are characteristics that are shared among the different styles. Some of these characteristics include the incorporation of nature, natural California elements, and landscapes in the work, since California is awash in natural beauty. There's an attitude of pioneerism and against the grain expressionism in California art, most likely due to the experimental and pioneer nature of the gold rush that brought many people to the state. California art is significant in that, when viewed over time, it is a good record of the attitudes and experiences of Californians. Many of the early California artists captured the natural beauty of California before it was spoiled by the influx of people coming to the state. In some ways, it also acts as a historical record. California, being so far removed from the main American art center in New York, allowed for experimentation in art that carved its own niche into the art world. The Lone Prospector from 1853 by A.D.O. Brower gives a glimpse of what prospecting life was like during the 19th century gold rush in California, as well as a sense of what the state looked like in those days. Yosemite Valley from 1863 by Albert Bierstadt also gives us a glimpse of unspoiled 19th century California nature and how it appeared to new residents of the state. Yosemite Valley also shows how majestic and inspiring the natural landscape was for California artists. Earth Knower from 1931 and 1932 by Maynard Dixon is an example of both a historical view of California as well as the experimental spirit of California artists. The painting depicts the natural beauty of the California desert landscape and also captures the imagery of native Californians. Earth Knower also shows the influence of Cubism, but with a unique spin. California Artists from 1982 by Robert Arneson shows both the laid-back attitudes of Californians while also showing the experimental nature of California art as a piece of decorative fine art ceramics. Richard Diebenkorn was a very influential artist, not only in the realm of California art, but to the field of abstract art in general. He is one of the founding painters of the Bay Area figurative movement in abstract painting. California art, like that of Richard Diebenkorn, showcases the state's natural beauty and incorporates the spirit of living in California.